السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. مساء الخير لجميع الحضور. معكم وئام الدخيل، صحفية ومذيعة أخبار. يسعدني أن أجدد اللقاء وأرحب بكم من جديد في الندوة السادسة والأخيرة من سلسلة ندوات مبادرة صناع السياحة لعام 2021. سأكون مقدمة هذه الندوة خلال الساعة القادمة، والتي ستضيف لكم إن شاء الله الكثير من خلال العروض المقدمة والحوار مع ضيوفنا المختصين. صناعة المحتوى على الإنترنت هو عنوان ندوتنا اليوم. تعتبر هذه الصناعة، صناعة المحتوى، عملية استراتيجية متخصصة في صياغة النص والمرئيات والبحث عن موضوعات تتماشى مع الأهداف الرئيسية لمشروعك، وتكون مخصصة لجمهورك المستهدف، وذلك من خلال قنوات التسويق الرقمي. بمجرد إتقان هذه الصناعة، صناعة المحتوى الخاص بك، سينعكس ذلك بلا شك على جذب العملاء المستهدفين ورفع مستوى المبيعات، وأيضاً تعزيز الصورة الذهنية لعلامتك التجارية، وبالتالي زيادة تأثير نشاطك التجاري وأرباحك. ما هي أفضل الطرق للتواصل والتعرف على جمهورك المستهدف؟ وهل من آلية عملية لصناعة المحتوى الخاص بك؟ أسئلة تهمك سنطرحها على ضيوفنا نور الفايز وجاستن ريد. قبل أن نبدأ، أود تذكيركم في التحقق من الرموز الموجودة على الجانب الأيمن للشاشة، وذلك للوصول إلى الترجمة الفورية. طرح الأسئلة في خانة الأسئلة والأجوبة على الجانب الأيمن، إذ سيكون هناك جزئية مخصصة من حوارنا لطرح أسئلتكم ونقاشها مع ضيوفنا، وأيضا تفاعلوا معنا عبر المشاركة في استطلاعات الرأي. والآن سنشارك معكم أول استطلاع. إذن كما هو موضح على الشاشة، السؤال: ما هي المنصة الإلكترونية التي تعتمد عليها للتواصل مع عملائك؟ الخيارات 5. أولاً الموقع الإلكتروني. ثانياً وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي سواء إنستغرام، فيسبوك أو تويتر. ثالثاً مواقع المراجعات وآراء الزوار كتريب أدفايزر وجوجل. رابعاً التواصل المباشر عبر البريد الإلكتروني والواتساب. خامساً وأخيراً لا أستخدم أي من القنوات، بل أعتمد على التواصل الشخصي عن طريق الهاتف. شاركونا آراءكم، وستظهر نتائج الاستطلاع وسنشاركها معكم بالتأكيد، وسنعلق معها بها مع ضيوفنا ولكن بعد قليل. Up next, we have two very special guests, Noor Al-Faiz and Justin Reed, who will be sharing with us some of the best global practices for creating smart business content and the tools to reinforce your brand and what you offer to your target market in order to accelerate your business growth and profitability. We will talk in depth about effective methods to build your brand's online presence, increasing brand awareness, and providing visibility to your products or services in different digital marketing channels. Noor Al-Faiz with us, head of digital transformation at Google. She has 15 years of experience in digital marketing, tech, and digital transformation. And Justin Reed, director of media, destinations, hotels, and growth at TripAdvisor, Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Prior to working at TripAdvisor, he was the digital director for Visit Britain in the lead up to the 2012 Olympics game. Okay. Thank you, Noura and Justin, for being with us today. I am sure our conversation will offer our audience an in-depth perspective of their online presence, having points of view from two of the largest companies in the digital world, Google and TripAdvisor. Justin, we know about the power of word of mouth and peer recommendations Take us through how you have seen this drive business for those with presence on TripAdvisor.
Thank you, Wim. It's an interesting one. It's almost like the question we would have had 10 years ago, 15 years ago about, who's got a website, or, who's on Facebook or whatever it might be. The question isn't so much what companies are doing well on TripAdvisor as to how you can possibly even think of operating if you're in the tourism space without being on TripAdvisor. Got a number of stats that are coming up, but by and large, it's not an exaggeration to say that in this day and age, people simply don't book or don't book a holiday or don't book a vacation or accommodation without checking reviews first. They want to know what other people are saying, not what the company's saying, but what other people are saying, people like them, about the experience they're about to have. So again, I wouldn't say who's doing well. I'd say everyone's doing better because of companies like TripAdvisor. And if you're not on TripAdvisor or a review site, then you really are missing out.
Interesting. Noura, for those businesses operating on a budget, how can Google help them organize themselves effectively and establish or enhance their online presence, in your opinion?
So I'd like to speak a bit more broadly than Google as well. I would look at it in terms of 4 buckets. So the first one I would say is infrastructure. I think the most important thing is to invest in your website, but also to invest in your SEO to make sure that you are discoverable and to benefit and capitalize on being discoverable without having to invest too much in advertising to be discoverable. So that would be the first thing. And of course, Google is a big part of that because, a lot of the search occurs on Google. The next area I would say is around measurement. So there's a lot of free tools, Google Analytics, Optimize, Firebase, Google Trends, and a few others that are freely available. Make use of them, take advantage of them, because they allow you to kind of squeeze every extra dollar out of any investment that you're making digitally to understand your customers more, optimize more effectively, get better performance out of whatever you happen to be doing, and then constantly learn and experiment. The next bucket I would say is around your earned media. So any activities you're doing, whether it's social, whether it's around video or YouTube, I would say is try to really benefit from making sure that anything you're doing is well received. Try to benefit from anything that could, achieve virality or go viral. Any organic views or organic engagement that you can accumulate from any of your media, that's something that's very beneficial on a budget. And then finally, of course, is digital advertising. I would say with Google, the benefit with Google is you only spend the budget that you allocate. You will not be spending any more than that budget. So that's one. And stop, of course, spending whenever you need to stop spending. The other thing is it's quite targeted. So you can be very precise about the audiences that you wish to reach and only reach those audiences. So you can be very economical with your budget. And then also, with Google, you can choose to only pay when, users are clicking. You can only choose to pay when people are viewing your video ads and so on. So it can be more manageable, let's say, on a budget.
Great. Okay. Let's engage now with the poll results from earlier. Let's see what the audience say now. Okay, the question was, which online platform do you use the most to engage your customers? As you can see here, direct outreach such as email, WhatsApp, 17%, review sites, we have almost 6%, social media, Instagram, almost 59, website, 17. Interesting. Well, let's reflect on these numbers now. Justin, as you can see, almost 6% of our audience choose review sites like TripAdvisor as their preferable platform to engage with their customers. Not only them, a lot of people around the world as well. A final decision in a customer's journey can be made out of influence from a review on TripAdvisor or Google. Placing this much trust in reviews and speaking here about the power of reviews, does TripAdvisor manage and filter real reviews from fake ones?
Yes, no, absolutely we do. In fact, it's one of the things we're strongest on. There's a number, when I say a number of checks, I think it's over 30 different checks Some of them are automated, so it will look at things like has an account just been created, and has that account suddenly left multiple reviews? Are those reviews either all 5-star or all 1-star? Is it reviewing places in different parts of the world at the same time that that person couldn't possibly do? So all this machine learning, all these automated reviews will kick in to begin with, and they will weed out a lot of the click farms and a lot of the fake review farms that you see, proliferating across all sorts of sites. We've got a strong customer service department who will respond to users or owners' questions, saying I'm not sure if this is legitimate, and look into that. But basically, it's you have to create an account. You have to have the account verified. It's just not a simple case of going on someone clicking a button. And like I say, all those different automated processes and the human backup as well ensures that not every review, but I think it's well over 99.9% we are confident are in being legitimate.
That's a huge percentage. Then it is accurate. And if we say, is it possible to turn a bad customer experience into a good one just with a positive interaction about a negative review?
Absolutely. And it's one of the things we'll be talking about, in the webinar later on. I mean,
Great.
We always say treat people online as it is offline. And if you were in a bar, if you were in a situation and you heard someone criticizing your establishment, you would probably go over to them and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, what was wrong? Is there something we can do to correct that?" And then very quickly that can turn from a negative into a positive. And then the other people looking at that as well will actually see that you're a business owner that cares enough to respond to criticism and respond in a positive manner, hopefully. And it's remarkably, I'm not saying it's easy, but there's lots of examples of where we can show that a negative can be turned into a positive simply by acknowledging, if necessary, apologizing and looking to correct the mistake.
Interesting. Okay. Well, Noura, so let's say a company's reputation is one of the key factors in making the decision in a customer's journey. What safeguards should you have in place to actively manage your online reputation?
So there are various, ways to do that. I think, Justin touched on it in terms of, keeping track of reviews and monitoring the customer sentiment. There are various tools out there in the market, not necessarily Google tools, but there are tools that allow you to monitor customer sentiment. And I encourage everyone watching to research them. There are some very powerful tools out there. But then also, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but understanding how people are interacting with your website, looking at how the feedback that they're giving you, monitoring even reactions to your campaigns and how they're engaging with your ad campaigns as well, and monitoring how they're reacting to your social media activities. So having a place to measure and monitor all of those interactions and engagements on a regular basis, and keeping an eye on this to see how the ups and downs, let's say, of how that's going, and being able to action against it and quickly in real time. I think that is what is critical to maintain and manage your reputation online.
Do you think the percentage of a website as the preferable platform to use the most to engage with the customer has 18% only? How do you reflect on this percentage?
I mean, honestly, it's disappointing, but it wasn't surprising. I know in Saudi that the preferred I was not completely surprised. I know in Saudi the preferred channel is social. Social is easy, right? It's super easy to go set up your account there and run with it. Even being from the region, I know from friends and family that that's always the preferred channel. However, sometimes the easiest path is not often the best path. And I'm not saying social is not good. Social is excellent, and we should definitely always leverage it, but we cannot put all our eggs in one basket, and we should not be only relying on one channel. And so that's the worry there. I think that if you think about the analogy I like to use is that your website is like your storefront, and you have to have a storefront, right? It's your digital storefront. So it's a way to tell the world what you're about and maintain kind of your brand image and within your framework. Whereas in social media, it's within another company's framework, and you have to operate within their rules and within their customer experience. So we'll talk about this again a little bit later. But yeah, I think that maybe there are some sort of mental blocks for some people about the complexities around getting a website, and actually it's much simpler than you would think, right? And that's something we can talk about a little bit later, but I'm not completely surprised.
Yeah. Okay. You said that your website is your sore friend. Justin, you agree TripAdvisor is your friend, actually?
Yeah, I think so. What I'd always say as well is look for specializationist areas. You know, if you are looking to travel, most people, a lot of people, wouldn't say all people, but I think it's 7 out of 10 people go via TripAdvisor. So, you know, make sure that the content that you've got and in places you're engaging with people is where they are making the travel decisions. I mean, yes, Facebook is a huge platform, as is WhatsApp, as is Instagram. But the people on there, they're not necessarily looking to travel. You know, they're looking to do other things. Yeah. They're looking to look at their cat pictures. They're looking to look at their relatives. They're looking to look at things. When someone comes on TripAdvisor, they are focused on one thing, well, largely one thing and one thing only, either to book travel or to be inspired about a new destination to travel to. So I think, you know, it's important to put your efforts, put your time in, because as Nora said, you know, there's a limited amount of time that anyone who's running a business will have to operate online. So therefore, make sure that the time you have got to spend on marketing yourself is spent in the right areas. And I would always say, you know, if I'm looking to buy a car, I'll go onto a car website. If I'm looking to discover a new bicycle, I'll go on a bicycle site. Yeah. If I want to look at travel, I'm going to go to TripAdvisor.
Specialization, absolutely. Okay, thank you, Noura. Thank you, Justin. Ladies and gentlemen, now we will dive into something different with Noura and Justin. They will share with us 2 presentations to showcase how and where you can be found on the web to grow utilization of your online presence. A quick reminder, you still have the chance to ask Noura and Justin all the questions you have in mind while watching us, and we will answer them during the panel discussion. We'll start with you, Noura. The mic to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm extremely excited to be with you today, to be part of such a great initiative by the Saudi Tourism Authority. As a Saudi myself, I'm really proud to see the efforts that are being made to drive innovation and growth in tourism and travel in the Saudi sector, in the travel sector in Saudi. I also wanted to just give you a quick breakdown of what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to be talking a little bit about how you can focus on developing your online presence. But we're also going to think of this session more of a thought starter, as we'll be sharing with you a few tools and best practices that you can start leveraging after the session. So as you can see, the world is increasingly getting connected. Already, we are incredibly connected at 66% penetration, largely driven by mobile, with around 4.3 billion people connected via mobile. Around 7 hours a day on average is spent online. If you think about that, that's a huge chunk of a person's time. When you think about Saudi specifically, it's actually way above average with 96% penetration. And actually, over the course of the last year, so from 2020 to 2021, 1.3 million people came online. So an additional 1.3 million just sort of was necessitated, I suppose, by the pandemic. So a lot of people are online. And actually, when you're in the travel and tourism business, pretty much everyone is your audience, right? Whether they're globally, you know, people from around the world, or locally from a domestic tourism perspective. Now, COVID did have an impact. It was a significant impact, of course. It's one of the sectors that was most hard hit by the pandemic. However, we're already seeing a recovery. So people are already starting to research trips and already starting to book trips. So this is promising. And from a Google perspective, when it comes to volumes of searches. We're already seeing from some of the key markets. So these are the key source markets from a global perspective for Saudi tourism. We're already starting to see a recovery globally when it comes to tourism, and specifically when it comes to tourism to Saudi. And if you look more specifically within Saudi, so of course, yes, it's still not looking great from a growth perspective. But if we think about it from an absolute volume perspective, 10 million searches around travel a month is still quite significant. The lion's share of that is, of course, around domestic tourism. And the biggest categories are around air, accommodation, and destination activities, which I think is particularly relevant for a lot of you who are tuning in today. So a lot of people are searching. A lot of people are online. Are you present when they're looking for you is the question you should be asking yourself. Like whether they're searching specifically for your business or they're searching for what you have to offer and they're not finding you. Again, going back to the storefront analogy, it's sort of like your store is shut. And that's bad because then they're going to either go to one of your competitors or they're going to go to an alternative of some sort. So you need to show up. It's just important for you as a business. It's imperative for your business that you show up. And there are various ways that you can show up. If you think about it, there are sort of 3 buckets of ways you can show up. First of all, website, which I can tell now from that lovely poll that maybe you're not super big fans of. We'll talk about this a lot because I'm a big fan of this. But your website is very, very critical. And there are some various tools that you can leverage to establish a website. So I've listed some Google tools, but of course there are other tools out there. I know there's maybe let's say a mental block where you think, oh my God, I have to know how to code to build a website. You don't necessarily need to know how to code to build a website. Actually, there's a lot of tools out there. There's Google Sites from a Google perspective, but there's Wix, there's WordPress, there's a lot of tools out there that make building a site quite simple and straightforward. And you actually get a very professional looking site afterwards. If you still find this complicated, there are some companies like Freelancer, Fiverr, Upwork, where you can go and find a freelancer that can actually help you build the site for you for a relatively reasonable budget and within a relatively reasonable time frame. And actually, I've done this myself for maybe not a business, for a hobby, but I'm just telling you that the process is quite simple and very easy to do. And there's a lot of great talent on these different portals to find. The other thing is there are some tools to help you when you're using a website. So for example, Google Analytics and Firebase are free tools that allow you to do a lot of very in-depth and granular analytics to really understand what are people doing on your site? What are they viewing? What are they consuming? How much time are they spending? How many pages are they consuming? What are the things that they're interested in? So there's a lot of tools out there that are very easy to use. And again, if you find this complicated, there are lots of experts out there that can be accessed so that you can get help with it. And then the other different channels, of course, social media, which everyone loves. And like I said, I want to dispel the myth that social media on its own is enough. It is not enough. It's a very important channel. I definitely am not trying to diminish its value, but it's not sufficient on its own. And all of these 3 different buckets complement each other. You need to do these different channels together. And finally, digital advertising, which is a way to actually drive traffic further to your message, whether your message is sitting in social media or whether it's on your website, or generally to just send out promotions and offers and so on. So definitely these different online channels are critical to maintain your online presence. Why is it so important to maintain an online presence and to engage in digital marketing? So I would say there are 4 key benefits from digital media. The first is you can get real-time feedback from your customers and engage in conversations with them. So actually having a one-to-one relationship with them. And Justin's probably going to be going into more detail about this. He already touched on this, but the importance of actually, getting back to them on their feedback and thinking of feedback as a gift that can help you enrich your offering, but also rethink maybe your business model, rethink maybe your business strategy. The second one is you can then get your messages into the market very quickly and in real time. So if you have a new offer, you have a new price, you have something you want to get into the market very quickly, digital media is the fastest way to do this. The next advantage is around the actual targeting. Like I mentioned this earlier, but you can be very precise around who you're trying to reach. If your offering is for a very specific segment of the population, you can specifically reach that population and not spend another real reaching any other segment. And then finally, you have the ability to measure very accurately in real time all the activities around your campaigns and your website. All right, so in terms of the journey that the customer takes, we talked about this, but the journey actually, and based on this research, generally starts on Google. You actually start your activities around planning your trips by searching. So that's why it's even more important to show up as a website, because if you think about it, if it's very important to be showing up on the search, you show up as a website. If you don't have a website, you won't be necessarily showing up. Of course, TripAdvisor, as you can see, is the second most important, and that's why Justin's going to be sharing some more information about how it's important to do that well. But as you can see, if you don't have a website, you're not going to be showing up one of the most important points in the journey. One other way to show up is through something called Google My Business. Google My Business is not a replacement for a website, but if you don't have a website yet, it's a good way to bridge the gap, but you should have both. It's a great way to have things like your office hours, your like opening hours, your location, your phone number, and even having reviews and being able to get feedback in a very easy tool to set up. And I can tell you, I set this up for my mother's shop. She has a small jewelry shop, and I set this up in 5 minutes. So I'm telling you, it's very easy to set up. And I hope that you all do this immediately after the session, because it's quite easy to do. Another very important channel is video. And actually with video content, some of you might already have some video content that maybe you've had it for TV. It's quite easy to, I don't recommend it because actually you should have proper content for digital. But if you already have it for TV, it's quite easy to then make it available for digital. But then again, making digital video content has become much easier than it used to be, because actually the equipment that you need to make video content, the software to edit it and so on has become much more affordable. So making video content is much more accessible than it used to be. So it's very important because, as you can see, it's very high from a penetration perspective on key markets, but it's also incredibly high in Saudi. Saudi is one of our top markets. There's 20 million plus people in Saudi consuming YouTube content, and they consume over 55 minutes a day, which is incredibly high. Not to mention that video content is something that is used across the journey when it comes to planning a trip. From inspiration in terms of where to go, to researching where you want to go, all the way into booking the actual trip. So making sure that having those tailored videos across the journey is critical for your business. There are various other channels, and we don't have time today, unfortunately, to go into all of the different channels. So I'm just sharing a few of them here. So when you're doing your preparation and understanding how to put your plans together, please don't forget to look into all these different channels. I want to spend a bit of time here before we close because it's critical, and based on the survey results, I realize I really have to spend some time here. It's incredibly important to have a website. These are the three main reasons why. One is having a website is a way for you to understand your customers better. I mentioned this before, but you will understand how they behave on your website so that you then understand what are they interested in, what services and products that you have are going to work for them, what's not going to work for them. I'll give you a quick example. So for example, let's say you're a tour operator. Maybe when you've been having a site for a while and you have enough data, you can use things like Google Analytics to analyze who's coming to your site. And you can layer on Google audience data to understand, oh, actually, I have a lot of auto enthusiasts that are coming to my site. All these people who love cars. Maybe my tours should be in interesting cars. Maybe I could have a Shabah or maybe a Jimps, and I could have these cars that were quintessentially Saudi cars of different eras that people like, and do the tours in these cars. Just thinking of an idea, but you can use these creative ideas that come out of the insights that you've learned by analyzing the behavior that's happening on your website. And then personalizing all of your offers around the different people that are interested in your offering. The next is around customer experience. Again, we touched on this before, but it's quite important. Making sure that you are delivering one seamless customer experience is not easy when you're working with OTAs and third parties. You still have to. I'm not saying you don't, but you really need to make sure that you have one seamless experience across all of the touch points that reflects your brand and your brand image and your values. And it's much easier to do it in a controlled way, which is your website. You can also personalize more easily when it's your website and build relationships like loyalty programs and so on your website than anywhere else. And finally, I know we're almost out of time, so just mentioning testing and experimentation is much easier when it's your website. You can test new offers, you can test promotions, you can even test new imagery and new color schemes, all kinds of things. And of course, testing is critical. So the best place to do it's your own platform. There's a lot of different tools. I'd mentioned some of them, but we don't have time to go into all of them. We will share all of these tools with you afterwards. I hope you were able to make use of them. I just want to mention one quick thing, which is the last box on the right is Maharat min Google. Maharat min Google is a website we have that has a lot of digital courses that have certifications attached to them that help you on various areas and will help you learn so that you can manage a lot of these activities. So just to recap a few of the key learnings. So first of all, online presence is not just social media. Please believe me. A website is a wellspring of insights, and we mentioned this several times already. Online personalization is a very important way to build one-to-one relationships with your customers so that they trust you and your offering resonates with them. Learn from experimentation. That's the beauty of digital. You can experiment, you can test new ideas, do so. And then finally, just launch and iterate. Go out there, try new things and learn. That's the best thing you can do right away. And now we'll be handing over to Justin, who'll be talking a little bit more about TripAdvisor and how you can get more value from how you're using TripAdvisor. Thank you.
Hello, so I'm Justin Reed, the Director of Destinations for Europe, Middle East and Africa for TripAdvisor. And what we're going to talk about in the next 10 minutes is a quick thing about who we are. So slightly disappointed to see that only, I think, 6% of you were using review sites, but a little bit about who we are, TripAdvisor are. More focusing then on where you are, you as in Saudi Arabia as a destination. And then the third point is like what every single one of you, small, medium, large businesses can be doing right now on the platform to maximize your presence. So TripAdvisor, we see ourselves as being this trusted voice in the conversation between travelers and experiences. On the one hand, you've got the businesses of which you represent. On the other hand, we've got these millions and literally hundreds of millions of potential customers coming to our platform every month to ask about what's the best things to do around the world. And we sit right in the middle of that intersection of people-powered travel. We've been around a while, and actually we're up to about 463. That's a number that it vibrates a little bit during the pandemic, but 463 million unique people every month coming to TripAdvisor to be guided about travel around the world. 190 different countries and 28 different languages. So no matter what traveler you're trying to appeal to, or where it is around the world that you're trying to get them to come from, TripAdvisor will have a presence there. And this is so important as well. There's 8 million listings on the website. So that's 4.2 million restaurants, 2.3 million accommodations and 1.3 million attractions. The chances are, even in Saudi Arabia, where you're not, using the platform as much as in some of the other countries, the chances are your place, your restaurant, your accommodation is already listed on there and people are already reviewing it. You need to really take advantage of that and make sure that what people are saying about you're aware of what people are saying about your experience, and that you can join in that conversation as well. Because as we can see here, it is so important. Travelers do trust us. Like I said, the company's been around for more than 20 years, and we've built up this great affinity. Travel, they don't just trust us, they actually genuinely love TripAdvisor. 7 out of 10 travelers come to TripAdvisor at some point of their journey to read reviews. 9 out of 10 travelers say that TripAdvisor makes them feel more confident in their booking decisions, and that's so relevant. 9 out of 10 travelers saying that, and 60% of them are saying that TripAdvisor gives them new ideas about where to travel to next. So one of the things we're noticing in this getting towards post-pandemic world is, people are looking to do new things, different things they might not have done before. So what a great opportunity for Saudi Arabia to be, the new destination on that list. And like I say, 60% of people, when they come to TripAdvisor, are saying, you know what, show me somewhere new, show me something different, inspire me with something I might not have seen before. And this shows, if we zoom in on it, this was an independent Mori Ipso poll, and it asked various different age categories, but Generation Z, Millennials, Gen X, or Boomers, which of these travel platforms, or indeed which of these social media platforms, do you trust more? And again, that is so important when it comes to something as important as an annual holiday for the entire family. Who do you trust more? And although Boomers in general trust a little bit less than Millennials and a little bit less than the others, no matter what category we were in, TripAdvisor ranked as #1 in trust compared to those other ones. So again, really important when it comes to making sure your content is there. Now then, that's us. What about you? So this is looking at the last 2 years, divided down by months, obviously, at the number of people on TripAdvisor looking at Saudi Arabia. And we can see that the red line is people in Saudi Arabia looking at Saudi Arabia. And we can see that obviously it dominates. Your domestic audience dominates the number of people that are looking on the platform. There was that big dip right in the middle of the screen. Not surprisingly, that represents March of last year when the COVID pandemic hit and you dropped all the way down. That is not unusual. That every country around the world suffered from that. You came back up very strongly towards the end of the summer, held it quite well. Bit of a dip again at the start of the year. Again, that was not uncommon. That is very much what the rest of the world was seeing again. And again, we're starting to emerge in that as well. If we remove the domestic view, so if we just look at international views now, again, a similar pattern. The United Kingdom was actually really starting to break through as a destination, as a target market of interest for Saudi Arabia. Just before the pandemic broke last year, we can see right there the sort of pinkish figure. It was growing and growing and growing. You hit record ever numbers of interest from the UK, from United States, Pakistan, and United Arab Emirates are your 4 biggest markets. All 4 of them dropped right away in COVID. But again, that's nothing to do with anything that any reflection on Saudi Arabia at all. That was a global phenomenon. We can see that Pakistan had a bit of a renaissance there towards the end of the summer last year. But again, it's been pretty flat until literally, I'd say, the last 6 weeks or so, when we're just starting to see international travel again break out. Now then, let me just leave you with this, not leave you with this, let me just really focus on this number now. 29,456,896. Okay, that's the number of unique people that have looked at Saudi Arabia on TripAdvisor in the last 2 years. Nearly 30 million, really strong numbers. So what are we going? That's 29. Let's call it 30 million. Let's round it up to 30 million. 30 million potential customers right now looking at Saudi Arabia. What are the 5 things? I'm going to give you 5 things now that will allow you, the small businesses, to maximize your presence on TripAdvisor so that you've got a chance of getting in front of some of those 30 million. So number 1. Find your business and claim it. As I said, the chances are it's already on there. Very good chance it's already on there and somebody is already reviewing it. If there's only one, well, from a TripAdvisor point of view, if there's only one URL you write down today or one thing that you find, it's this one here. www.tripadvisor.com/owners. Go to that URL, search for your business. Okay, if you haven't already claimed it, go to that URL, search for your business, and you'll have to obviously provide various forms of identification. You have to prove that it is your business. It probably takes a week or so for it to do, but then you actually you can log into TripAdvisor as the owner of that business, and you can start really engaging with these customers. You can put up your website, you can put up certain imagery, that will appear at the start, and most importantly, you can start engaging in the conversations that people are having about your attraction, business, restaurant, whatever it is. Point number 2, and again, this follows on from having claimed the business, because once you claim the business, you can start uploading photographs to the business. And a picture, it's an old cliche, but a picture really is worth 1,000 words. Have a look at this. These are the top 4 restaurants in my local, well, near to my local hometown. The first 3 have uploaded pictures of the food that is available there. Again, people they eat with their eyes. They see that and they think that's fantastic. The 4th one, the Wild Olive Tree, it's obviously a very good place. It's got great reviews. But look at what image they've loaded up. They've loaded up an empty, what looks like a canteen. Again, if you've got a choice of 4 there, they've all got similar scores, they've all got similar things, and one of them is only one of them isn't showing a picture of the food. That's not going to entice people to choose that one. So again, have a look at what is the first picture that people see when they look at your business, both on TripAdvisor, but also online. Put it into Google image search, see what's coming up, but see what's the first image there that comes up when you've got it. If it's not something that would entice you to visit or to stay or to eat at your attraction, maybe think about changing that. Number 3, so important. Do reply to comments. Okay. Again, having claimed the business, you can now be the person that replies. Now then, one of the big criticisms, I've had it, everyone's had it. It's one of the worst things about the internet as a whole is when comments go unfettered and they just carry on and carry on and carry on, and sooner or later 9 conversations out of 10 they denigrate into like a bit of arguing, a bit of and people don't really agree on the internet. They prefer to throw mud at each other. Now then, what's great about TripAdvisor, especially for the owners, is somebody can leave a review, the owner can then respond to that review, and then that's the end of it. That's where the conversation ends. So it's a perfect opportunity for owners to, if you like, have the last word, be able to either thank someone or respond to them and say, I'm sorry you didn't have a great time. You know, if they leave a poor review, perhaps, you know, come again and we can look at correcting that. Great example here, and again, I've blacked out the names of the businesses, but 2 very well reviewed places in Saudi Arabia, 603 reviews on the left, of which the average score is 4.5. Look at that on the right, 2,310 reviews, of which 95%, 99% of them have given them 5 stars. Okay, that is fantastic. That is brilliant. This place clearly is doing a great job, and people love it, and they are reviewing it. When I went and had a look, I could see that there wasn't a single reply to any of those reviews. Imagine being in a room offline where 2,300 people had said your business is fantastic, and you didn't even bother to acknowledge or thank any of them. So again, go in there and thank the ones that have left reviews. Number 4. A bad review isn't wrong. It's free customer research. We've spoken about this before, but again, it bears repeating. If there's constant criticism about a single piece of your business, maybe have a think and think, actually, do you know what? Maybe we do need to work on that. So if people are saying a particular item on the menu isn't great and lots of people are saying it, maybe look at taking that thing off. Likewise, if you're getting lots of good comments, for instance, about a particular member of staff, look at perhaps, you know, maybe rewarding that member of staff. And then the last point, very quickly, because I think we have to wrap up, is that the world is ready to experience Saudi Arabia. Are you ready to welcome it? If we look at these numbers, okay, this was 2019, before the pandemic, 110,000 people clicked to book accommodation in Saudi Arabia in June of 2021. Last year, practically nothing. Same thing the world over, practically nothing. Look at what's happening already. In June of this year, we've already surpassed the numbers we had in 2019 in terms of people clicking to book Saudi Arabia. People are excited. People are ready to come. Let's make sure that, you know, all your digital platforms, especially perhaps TripAdvisor, I'd be biased. Let's make sure you're ready to really welcome the world in all its shapes and formats. So we're going to move on to the panel discussion in a minute, but a quick wrap up from me in 1 second. So once again, 5 things you need to do. 1, find your business and claim it. Without a doubt, www.tripadvisor.com/owners. Number 2, use great imagery to tell your story. You've got the great imagery, I'm sure you have. If not, it's easy to take pictures of it. Make sure that what people see when they look at you online is reflective of what it is that you're offering. Number 3, please reply to comments, even if it's just to say thank you. It's good manners and it shows that you care about your business. And a bad review, a bad review is free customer research. If lots of people are telling you the same thing, maybe take that advice on board and look to really improve what it is that they're offering. And be ready. Be ready to welcome new visitors in 2021. Second half of the year is starting to look good. 2022 is really going to be the year that tourism bounces back. Let's really make sure Saudi Arabia is ready to welcome all those people. Thank you.
Thank you, Noura and Justin, for sharing with us your views and emphasizing on the importance of online presence as a key factor for business growth and sharing the best ways to engage with customers throughout their journey. I'm sure our audience will use these learnings to support the development of their own businesses. Really, you have done an excellent job in simplifying the complexity of digital transformation for a business with a very well-structured, accessible, and effective approach. And now it's time for the panel discussion. We received a lot of questions from our audience. Thank you all for your interaction and participation. We'll try to answer as much as we can, depending on the time left. So the first question from our audience is, it will appear on the screen, as you can read it. How do I start building the online strategy for my business? To start with you, Noura.
All right. So I'd take as a starting point your actual business. So first, I would try to understand what is your business strategy, what are your objectives, what are you trying to achieve, and in order to achieve that, who do you need to reach? What is the journey to reach that, right? So it depends. So, for example, if you're a tour operator and what you're trying to do is you're trying to get more people to book tours, and you're trying to maximize the revenue you make from selling those tours. If you're a hotel and it's about maximizing occupancy. So define what those goals are, and then the best way to achieve them. And then who's your audience, right? So who are your key customer segments? What are the best ways to reach them? And then define the key online channels that predominantly would be there. Where would they be? And then define what campaigns to execute against where. So it's much more complicated than that. This question would take hours to answer thoroughly. But as a starting point, always start with what actually is your business strategy, what are your business goals, and then how you can translate that into the digital realm. And then also really be very clear on who's your audience. So how do you reach that audience and digitally? And then make sure you translate as well your KPIs from a measurement perspective. So make sure whatever you're doing, whatever you decide to do, you're measuring it. So whether it's through analytics or Google Analytics or whatever analytics platform you decide to use, make sure you're measuring everything you're doing so that you can understand if you're achieving those goals.
Perfect. Okay. The second question was requested by a few of our audience members. To appear. So the question in Arabic: كيف تستفيد من المعلومات المتاحة لتشكيل حضورك الرقمي بالشكل الأمثل? How do you make the most out of the information and data available to shape your digital appearance? Justin.
Good question. These are good ones. I would start with the reviews. Obviously, I'm going to be biased there. I'd say I would start with the reviews and look at what people are already saying, because that's the greatest research you can have and the greatest data you can have. If you have got, as we saw with that previous place in Saudi Arabia, 2,300 reviews all saying you've got a 5-star rating, then you probably don't have to do too much in terms of modifying what it is that you're doing. If, however, you find that you've got a lot of mixed reviews, then find out what those mixed reviews are saying, because that's the best customer research you can have. If consistently people are saying there's one item of stuff that you're doing wrong, that's a pretty strong thing to focus on. The other thing I'd say is use the data that's around you right now. And look, Noura's got the wealth of information about, building your website presence and stuff like that. I'm not going to try and add to that. I just sort of say, get 5 people around you and say, right, how do you book a holiday? Or how did you last purchase something? And see what they say. Take yourself out of the equation and see what other people are telling you. And if 4 or 5 of them say, okay, well, I started off with Google took me to TripAdvisor, and then from TripAdvisor, I looked at the reviews and then went on and booked. That's a pretty good indication that, that might be the way that, the wider audience will work, as opposed to maybe on social media.
Absolutely. And since every experience with a customer impacts the overall perception of a brand, taking an approach that focuses on the relationship with customers is always a wise move. Okay, now we have the third question. Our audience wanted to know more about: how can I best use insights to shape what my digital presence should be? Interesting. Go ahead, Noor.
I'm happy to take that one. So we talked about it a little bit as well in the presentation, but I would say, I think so. There's different types of insights, right? So there are insights that are more broad in terms of understanding what's the general population searching for. So things like Google Trends, and Market Finder, things like that, which we will share with you afterwards. So tools that make you understand what the general population are interested in, which allows you to narrow down your offering. So I don't know why I keep using tour operator example, but maybe I want to go on a tour. I think maybe subconsciously, but for example, I miss traveling. I think subconsciously, I'm thinking, not subconsciously, but let's say, for example, if you were looking at searches, right? So, for example, if you go on Google Trends and you look for tourism and you see what are people searching for, and you notice let's say you end up noticing there are trends that a lot of people are looking for food tours. A lot of people are looking for historic tours. A lot of people are looking for shopping, retail therapy. Then you realize, okay, maybe I should, package my tours in those categories. So those insights allow you to understand how you should structure your offering and package your tours. But then once you launch, right? So let's say you decided based on understanding general trends, you launch, and then you start understanding, okay, who's signing up for what feedback are you getting? Maybe on TripAdvisor, some people are complaining about some things, right? You collect all of those insights from TripAdvisor, from social, from your website, everything all together. Then you tweak. Maybe you discover that, okay, so the people who are into history are specifically interested in history from 1100 to 1500. I'm just making it up, right? Like they're very precise. There's a niche, so that you make that tour even more precise, right? Or maybe you find out that the people who are interested in shopping are into, couture, very high-end fashion. So you make it more precise. So going back to what I was saying about learning and experimentation, is you can use insights when you have zero data, use those general insights. But then the most valuable insights you can get are from your own activities, and constantly use them. So it's not set and forget. Constantly use those insights to then enrich your presence and make yourself much more relevant to your audience.
Amazing. I like the approach. Justin, you have anything to add on this?
Well, nothing to, well, only to add, not to contradict, and the only thing I'd add is languages. You know, it's pretty clear from both our research and also Google's research via Neura that, like, you know, Arabic and English, that's going to take care of 95% of people who are looking at the site. You know, so if you are time poor or recess poor, you know, probably taking care of those two languages, whether it's on your website or whether it's like in the materials that you have, you know, within your experience itself, that's going to take care of even more than 95% of your potential visitors. So, you know, that's a pretty good tool to go forward with.
Absolutely. Okay, now we'll go to the fourth and last question. Let's see, it will appear now on the screen. هل تؤثر الآراء السلبية على أداء المشروع? So the question in English, do negative reviews and opinions affect project and business performance?
Yes, they do. Well, they can do. Really good anecdote we've got here, which is a global hotel chain, huge hotel chain, was looking to replace all the bed linen in all their hotels around the world. Would have been a multi-million-dollar project that they undertook. They worked with us and they did a sentimentality analysis on the reviews that they had across all their properties globally. We're talking literally tens of thousands of reviews. I don't think there was a single one, positive or negative, that even mentioned bed linen. But what did come up, particularly on the 1- and 2-star reviews, was this overriding comment about the poor Wi-Fi within the hotel rooms. So they immediately stopped the project and they channeled all that money into upgrading the Wi-Fi facilities within the hotel rooms. Having done that, within 6 months of that going in, we did another review of like what the average score had been, and it went up by half a bubble rating or half a star over the course of that period. And most of that had gone because like it had been sifted out all this like bad reviews about people saying, yes, it was a lovely concierge. Yes, it was a great hotel. Yes, the food was great, but the Wi-Fi was terrible. So again, just using that information is great for, you know, turning it's great business intelligence for turning what could have been a negative into what in their case was a multi-million-dollar improvement that really improved their brand and their reputation with the all-important customers.
I couldn't agree more, Justin. Well, since we're talking about the importance of online presence and we're out of time as well, to close this session, I just wanted to share a Bill Gates quote when he said, if your business is not on the internet, then your business will be out of the business. And this is what actually our audience reflected in the poll question with a 0%. Okay, thank you, Noura Al-Faiz and Justin Reed, for sharing with us your rich experiences. It really has been eye-opening having both of you with us today. I'll be back shortly, but after this video to showcase what الدرعية has to offer as a destination. لجميع الحضور، كما ذكرت سابقا، هذه المبادرة مبادرة صناع السياحة كان لها 6 ندوات على مدى ال6 أشهر الماضية. قدمنا فيها موضوعات تهم المهتمين وأصحاب الأعمال والشركات في مجال السياحة والضيافة. في كل مرة كنا نشارك فيها استطلاعات رأي لنسمع آرائكم، كنا نبني عليه محتوى وموضوعات واختيار الضيوف أيضا لكل ندوة حسب رغبتكم واختياراتكم. ما زال رأيكم محل اهتمامنا، لذلك نختم بتقييمكم لهذه الندوة. إذن السؤال كما هو واضح على الشاشة: ما هو تقييمك لندوة اليوم؟ الخيارات 5: لا ترتبط بوضعي الحالي، مرتبطة بوضعي الحالي لكنها ليست مثيرة للاهتمام، مثيرة للاهتمام لكنها غير قابلة للتطبيق، قدمت أفكاراً ورؤى يمكن تطبيقها في المستقبل، قدمت أفكاراً ورؤى يمكن تطبيقها فوراً. إذا مشاهدينا الكرام، بهذا نكون قد وصلنا إلى نهاية ندوتنا اليوم، وهي الندوة السادسة والأخيرة من سلسلة ندوات صناع السياحة، إحدى مبادرات الهيئة السعودية للسياحة. أشكر ضيوفنا على مشاركتنا أفكارهم وتجاربهم القيمة، وأيضا الشكر موصول لجميع القائمين على هذه المبادرة القيمة من الهيئة السعودية للسياحة، ولجميع الحضور شكرا على وقتكم وتفاعلكم. تعرفنا عليكم أكثر، فتحنا قنوات التواصل معكم، سمعنا منكم، وبناء على ذلك سنخطط أفكار المشاريع والمبادرات المستقبلية لكل المهتمين في مجال السياحة. حقيقة أنا سعيدة جدا أني فرد من فريق عظيم عمل بتفاني والتزام لإنجاح هذه السلسلة، سلسلة ندوات مبادرة صناع السياحة على مدى الأشهر الماضية. نتمنى لكم كل التوفيق والنجاح في أعمالكم ومشاريعكم. لكم مني أطيب تحية.